I love this feeling, running with my mowers as part of the pack, watching them spread out, taking out all challenges. They know where she's gone hiding. They're not going to let her hide down there. Hello, my name's Matt, and when I'm not art directing Icarus, I like to sit here in my little corner of the world and raise my mowers. I've managed to get 30 or so on the go with all the rare skins unlocked, just not that elusive legendary black mower. You might look at this oasis and say, hey, this is a calm and tranquil place, but it wasn't always this way. At the start, this whole place was overrun with raptors and dribos and ghost crocs and all kinds of predators, and of course, lots of mowers. And what I would have to do is live in my little cave, hide out there, run out, grab mowers, bring them back to base, fighting my way back to base, and gradually over time, raising my flock. Eventually, my tech level got strong enough that I could put in the electronic creature deterrent and clear out the zone, so now I own it all. But it was a long road to get to this level of peace. And now, that's been shattered, basically, by prospectors stirring up the Sandworm Queen. And that huge flying creature has been circling overhead and scaring my mowers and stirring them up. And I'm actually sure a couple of mowers have gone missing. I've lost count of them. So the plan is to take care of this critter up in the sky, so I can get back to sitting in peace on my porch and watching my lake and hearing the love-making of my mowers going on in the background. So first things first, what I did is took my favourite raptor, the one they call Sneakfish, and we tracked down where that queen actually lives. We followed her to her place where she circles the most. And we got an eye on her, and I turned to Sneakfish, and I said, "What do you reckon, mate? Do you reckon we can take him?" Sneakfish, in his wise and humble way, did not reply, but just eyed me with that weird, sideways fish look he's got. And I nodded, and I said, "Yes, of course you're right, Sneakfish. I'm just one man. What can I do?" Sneakfish again didn't say anything, but I knew what he was thinking, and I looked at him and I said, "I'm thinking the same thing, mate. We've got ourselves an army. I don't need anyone else. Let's go back and teach these mowers how to fight." And Sneakfish looked at me and said, "Yeah, mate, you got it right. That's what we should do. We should take them on a whole training montage, teach them to hit things with their heads, and take down the Sandworm Queen and anything else that gets in our way." And I was like, "Whoa, Sneakfish, I didn't even know you could talk." And he didn't even reply back because I'd caught him out. So we headed back to base, and you know what was incredible about these mowers is that they had been watching me work and build up my tech level. And so all of them had like 24 skill points. They had evolved into these powerful creatures. So I just grabbed the ones that were kind of expendable. They didn't have the cool skins and maybe the bad stats. And yeah, I taught them how to fight. And that's kind of easy. What you do is you give them a little bit of the left crate and then the blue hourglass, and then bam, 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 protective instincts, tempt them to fight. Then you make them tougher with a bit of health regen and tough as leather, skin, and then yeah, you can even, if you're got enough points, make them reincarnate into a juvenile again if they die, which gives the Sandworm Queen a second target she has to deal with, even when she's killed the first one. So yeah, we did the montage with a bunch of my mowers, all the ones without cool colours. We started off really crappy, and then as a montage went, by the end of it, they were awesome. And just like that, I had about 20 fighting mowers, all ready to follow me at the click of a button and be aggressive. But that wasn't going to be enough. I had to be able to shoot down the Sandworm Queen, deal with its poison attacks, and have a full belly of food while I was doing it. So as you can see, got myself some Caveworm Armour. Now this armour is perfect to fight her. First of all, I'm covered in the skin of her children, and that gives me all sorts of poison resistances. But it also gives me a lot of cave resistances for my caveman lifestyle. And on top of that, pretty good melee resistances and things like that. So I was sorted with armour. I got some attachments that gave me an extra food slot, so I could have 4 food buffs as I fought this creature. And I got another attachment for my head, which gave me even more poison resistance, and I got a poison resistance module. 99% poison resistance, so her most deadly attacks wouldn't even hurt me. Now for ammo, I got myself all sorts of guns. I've got the assault rifle, I've got the submachine gun, even got a laser pistol, a laser sidearm, sorry, for if things got hairy, and of course my bow as well. For bullets, I got myself normal bullets, but also cold steel bullets. Quite easy to make now because you can sledgehammer mine the super cooled ice out in the Arctic. So you just go and hit that with a hammer, bring it back, mix it with some iron ingots, and you've got cold iron steel, and you mix that with your bullets. You got yourself some cold bullets. I thought maybe they'll do good against this desert living creature. And then yeah, I had to head off to Eden and cool down some seed packets because stuff is hard to grow out here, and got all sorts of seeds, brought them back to my base, and I started growing. And that let me make shepherd's pie and some savoury rolls and even some chips and some pickled carrots to wash it all down with, and that gives me better projectile damage and stuff like that. So with my 4 food slots, I was pretty tough. Now my next job was to head out and set up a forward base in her territory. So I did that with Sneakfish, and we set up a sneaky little bed and a fire and even a crate with extra armour and weapons. In case I died, I'd just pop back there, re-suit up, run out, finish off the Sandworm Queen. And just like that, we were ready to go. But before I left, I had to say my goodbyes. I didn't want Sneakfish to come. I told him if I don't return, he gets to run the ranch. And he was like, oh, I don't even know how. And I said, you know just as much as I do of how to run this place. We started it together. And he was like, oh, okay, but I hope you come back. And I thought, that's pretty cool for someone with a lizard brain. They usually don't show, you know, emotions, but you could tell by the way he bowed his head and twisted his foot that, yeah, he was feeling what I was feeling. And then I stood in front of my troops. You might notice there's a raptor in there, and that guy is called Cutter. A really stupid raptor who was raised with the moas and thinks himself one. So I couldn't separate him. If I left him behind, he'd be howling like a moa, whatever noise they make, and then I'd get complaints from the neighbours and all that sort of carry on. So yeah, he was going, and I hoped he'd do well, but I had a feeling I'd never see Cutter again. So I stood in front of my troops and gave them one last speech. I told them, hey, you guys, this is it. We've got a Sandworm Queen out there possibly snatching up moas, and we're not going to let that stand. Now, any of you can walk away if you want. If you can override the follow command when I tick this box. And I left it there, and you know what? None of them walked away. They stood there, ready to follow. And yeah, they all got aggressive too. So I said, let's ride. I mounted up Cutter. He was going to lead the pack. And we headed off. The moa army behind me, ready to fight. For the first time, really. When we got to the forward base, there were a few mistakes with our marching formation. I almost got myself trapped in the base because they were still following me, covering up the entrance, but I managed to dig myself out. And then we were under attack from all the wildlife around the place, and you know what? The moas fought back. They sort of formed a moa mosh pit that just pummeled anything that stepped into it. But then when the TPS came around with their nosy drones, I had to step up and take them out with my laser pistol. And you know what? When I did that, you could see the moas turn and look at me. New respect in their eyes. And I knew I'd won them over. And yeah, like Cutter, I was now part of their pack. So we headed off. The first part of our plan was to put down a thumper and call up this queen's children. Kill a few of them to bring her down. And we did that pretty easy. My troops surrounded them, pummeling them with their head as I shot. Occasionally I'd even jump in with my knife and go, "Look, Cutter, this is how it's done. You got to do it like this." But poor dumb Cutter would just be looking at me, and he just didn't get it. And it was then that I thought, you're going to be a goner, mate. We took out the kids, and yeah, she came down, mad as hell. We went back to Ford Camp. A storm had come up. I don't think she summoned this one, but we thought we'd wait it out before we took on the Queen. And that's when we got attacked several more times. And Cutter, he was badly injured. And I was like, could this be the end of him? And then I probably did something truly heroic. I gave him one of my own health potions. And that healed him up a little bit more. And I thought, I hope I'm not going to regret this. If I die from not having one extra health potion, well, Sneakfish was not going to be happy with Cutter. Anyway, we headed out, ready to fight the Sandworm Queen. We'd already lost some moas along the way, their gravestones littering the area where they had fought mobs. One got killed by a scorpion very early on. Others, I don't know how they died, but there's lots of creatures out there. So I faced her down, alone while I waited for my pack behind me. We watched each other for a long time. And then, my boys were here, including a juvenile, so someone had already died and turned into one. But you could see them crossing the desert, not one of them turning around, because of my follow command. Some of them had already leveled up, so I taught them how to eat. And then I said, "Enough! Let's get him!" And we charged. And at first my troops didn't know what to do. We were all looking around, and then it was up to me to show the pack how to fight. I got a wound straight away. And yeah, apparently I still had some moas set on follow and not aggressive. But then the attack came. You can see creatures are all around in this desert. That's one of the biggest problems, especially as a solo. Imagine dealing with all these random ads that came in, dribbos. But now because of my troops, a lot of them just standing around, I could deal with just the Sandworm Queen. You can see here my armor is taking her poison hits like they're nothing. There, names started to appear of moas that died pretty early on in the fight, because everything wanted to fight us. And you know, every now and then during the fight I would just have to stop and look around and watch the carnage happening. But we fought on against sandhorns and dribbos and the Sandworm Queen herself. For every moa that fell, I seemed to have 2 or 3 stand up and take its place, charging this queen, keeping the pressure on. There was a lot of running in this desert, and I think that's part of the challenge. You're going to be running through mobs, attracting aggro from other creatures. Is there a more inspiring sight than seeing a herd of moas charge the Sandworm Queen without hesitation, without fear, waiting for her to come down? I don't know. That moa looked like a black moa. I'm pretty sure it's the Choco Brown moa. At least I hope so. The Sandworm Queen always had a bunch on her. Here, more died, more fell. But there were so many of us. I love this feeling, running with my moas as part of the pack. Watching them spread out, taking out all challenges. They know where she's gone hiding. They're not going to let her hide down there. And pop! There she is. Well found, guys, well found. And now I stood my ground. But as you can see, the strategy's not perfect. Occasionally moas would photobomb me and get in the way, not letting me take the shot. But here they formed a shield to save me from the poison. Sandworm Queen was getting desperate, trying to take me out, recognizing me as the pack leader. But there were just so many of us. So many dealing with the problems. Dribbos coming in from the north. Sandworm Queen taken to the sky, trying to escape the menace of the moa army. Here they are fighting off the Dribbos. I'm going to help. When the Sandworm Queen's out of range, I'll help my troops against these Dribbo. Take that one. Oh, get back on your feet, soldier. And now this, I know, is the work of the Sandworm Queen. She pulls up a storm and tries to hide in it. Drops poison from the skies. But we don't care. We're spread out. She doesn't know which target to pick. She flies overhead, casting a long shadow. And that's where I see her, and I chase. I leave my moas to the side fighting. They're taking care of the mobs. I'm looking for the Sandworm Queen. She can't hide. And there she is, in the sky. Trying to find me, possibly. She must know she's beat by now. Her storm not even stopping me. I push through. I know she's out there. So I hunted her through the sandstorm. I knew she was out there somewhere. I left my troops behind dealing with their own battles. I was relentless and pushed ever forward, getting further and further away from my backup. But I didn't care. She was almost dead and she wasn't going to get away. And then, like that, the sand cleared and there she was. For that moment, it was just her and me. I didn't even look over my shoulder to see if my brothers were behind me. My eyes were just for the Queen. And I unleashed hell, but sure enough, as always, they were by my side. And we stood one last time. And I gave her everything I had. Bullets, arrows. Considered a knife, but no, back to bullets. She got one last hit on me. A big hit, left a scar that I still have to this day. And then she fell. Rather dramatically, if I might say. And like that, the Sandworm Queen was dead. We looted her carcass, took her eggs, her head, and even some biomass. And then I said, "Come on, brothers. It's time to go home." And they said, "We'll follow you, because we have to." And then I killed a ghost croc. And then the desert fell silent. I got back on top of Cutter, who survived the fight, and through it had become king of the moas. And he led the way back with our survivors. My count said there were 6 of us, but there were juveniles out there that I'll collect later who were growing into moas. By the end of the day, of the 20 moas, 8 survived and were stronger for it. And that's my story. Sneakfish was glad to see me, and I was proud of the boys. And yeah, I took my seat, looked at that beautiful blue sky and thought to myself, that could do with a bit more purple in it, don't you think? Nah, it's fine the way it is.